Hey there, welcome. It's the 2023 State of the Market Annual Report week. It's week 4 in Des Moines and Central Iowa. This is Les Solgrove with Simply Des Moines and DesMoinesMarketValues.com. This is the weekly show that talks all about what's happening in the Des Moines and Central Iowa real estate market. And this is the big week you've been waiting for. I'm going to go over the 2023 State of the Market Annual Report this week. And we have got a lot of information. And just like we did last year, I'm going to chunk this into little drop in segments so you can jump in and see, like, watch a section as you want, or you can sit down and watch the whole thing. But I'll have a couple of links here as well as to the show where all the graphics are for the show. So believe it or not, there's over 800 graphics that I've collected for this year's show. We're not going to see all 800 obviously this week or today, but they're all available on the links here on the website at DesMoinesMarketValues.com. So well, let's jump right in and let's talk a little bit about what kind of happened in the real estate market last year. These were my predictions. I made the prediction of for sale inventory. I said that inventory would rise to the levels close to 4,000 this year. I didn't hit that. I think we got as close as to like 33 or 3,200. We have a graphic here later. I'll show you that, but we did not come close to 4,000 this year. So I missed that one. Also missed this pending sales prediction. Sales activity were strong through the spring market, but not overly strong. They were just semi-mediocre. I think a lot of that, was the mortgage interest rates still having effect there. The real rise of mortgage interest rates happened later in the year, which we'll talk about. Closed sales. I had predicted we would be similar to 2022. That did not happen. We were actually, as you'll see, about 2,000 closed sales lower than 2022. So we had a down year in sales. I was correct on days on market. We did take longer to sell in 2023. It was about 3 weeks, I think, on the market versus about a week the previous year. Months of inventory maintained its status as being low under that $300,000 price point. In other words, we were in a seller's market pretty much the entire year under that $300,000 price point. Above that, it was hit or miss. Really, the higher you got in the price points this year, the slower the market became. Of course, we all know about mortgage interest rates this year. They did go up almost to that 8% number. And I had predicted that rates would settle in around 5 to 5.5. We missed that. They did come down close to 6%, right at 6% at one point, but they're still back up again a little bit here as we bring you week 4. And we'll have some predictions here at the end of the show as to what I think is going to happen for 2024. And the last question was, will there be a buyer pool shift? We kind of expected homeowners to jump off the fence last year, but when mortgage rates didn't stabilize, they kind of sat back down and said, you know what, we're going to wait. But I think that's going to change. So let's take a look at this week's and this year's report and kind of see maybe where we have some bright points and some other spots here. So this is a graphic that shows you from 2022. This is from 2 years ago. This is the counties that the Des Moines Area Association of Realtors, the members of Des Moines Area Association of Realtors, went across the state in 2022. You can see that, for the most part, we were kind of staying close by here in the central Iowa area. 9,900 sales were in Polk County alone, and then the strong areas were around that surrounding counties. So that was 2022. Let's take a look and see what happened in 2023. And I'm going to go back and forth between these, just kind of show you here. We've had a little bit of a contraction of the business here. So 2023, obviously we didn't have as many sales, only 8,300 sales in the Des Moines metro market. But also you notice here, again, I'll kind of go back and forth. You can see that we really didn't stretch out beyond that central Iowa market. In fact, if you were just to take all these light blue numbers here and add them up, it makes up less than 1% of all of our total sales. So Des Moines Realtors pretty much stayed within, their central Iowa boundaries here this past year, stayed around the Polk, Dallas, Jasper, Dare, Madison, Warren counties and around the Polk area here, Polk County area. So just kind of an interesting observation. I would expect to kind of see maybe that happen again next year. So let's keep an eye out for that. So Some general stats about housing. We'll get into this first, and then get into the meat as far as pricing and inventory and things like that. The existing home inventory sales overall, that was about 80% of our sales were existing homes. In other words, pre-owned homes, and 20% made up the new construction. And the new construction was made up obviously of single family new construction homes as well as condominium townhome new construction homes. But only 2,669 homes were actually closed in 2023 as of December 1st. And that's a key point here as well, I should say, is that all these numbers, or the bulk of these numbers, are as of December 31st of this year. So there are going to be occasions where I might have a little more updated information, and we do have sales that have come in since December 31st. Um, but for the bulk of these graphics here, you're going to see these are all as of December 31st. So the makeup of the occupancy of homes sold, only 2% of homes sold this past year were reported as tenant occupied. 61 or 47%, or 6,172 homes, were vacant properties versus 6,639 were owner occupied. So almost a 50-50 split, a little over 50% on the owner occupied and 47% on the vacant, and that 2%. So kind of keeping on track of what we've seen in the previous years. Financing, I like to look at this year over year to kind of see where the market has changed. 2023 is in the red column chart there, and blue is 2022. And you can see that conventional financing actually dipped a little bit. Of the total sales, only 66% were financed with conventional. We had a rise in cash purchases this past year, again, a product of the rising mortgage interest rates, I'm sure. That's caused 17.4% of sales to be cash versus 12.7%. So almost a 5% jump in cash sales last year. FHA sales were actually down financing wise, and VA actually bumped up a little bit. It was almost a full percent higher than last year. The rest of the financing types that I track, your government USDA loans, your contract assumptions, were all pretty close to last year. Actually, other, which is like your neighborhood financing corp, that was actually even farther down. One thing I kind of expected to see happen here is the assumption category to kind of take a little bit of a jump upward, but it didn't make a change. I'm thinking that with mortgage interest rates high, and if a home seller were selling and they had an FHA assumable loan, we might start to see some more assumptions, but that certainly wasn't the case in 2023. So maybe 2024 is the year, maybe not. I think people were just satisfied with staying put with the houses they had. So the most popular style home overall, this is all homes sold. 6,030 were ranches. This is the winner every year. We sell predominantly the ranches, the most popular and the most sold home in the market overall, with two stories falling behind that, not too far behind. A little over half as many of the same, the highest number, but then they trail down um, to 1.5 stories as the third most popular, and then you get down into the bungalow, split levels, etc. So, how this looks across the rest of the market here, these are existing homes. So I'm sorry, these are single family homes. So we have existing single family and new construction. Again, follows the same path. Both of those style homes are ranch, and then two-story is the second category. And then once you get into the condominium townhome, obviously we tend to see more of those be a two-story, and they call them ranches. They're just probably miscategorized. Those should probably be apartment style in some cases, although there are ranch style townhomes. But the two-story is the most prominent, is probably the most built in our marketplace of the condo townhomes. So again, it's flip-flops there. It goes from two-story as the most sold in those two particular categories there. So as far as volume goes, this is a graphic I created a couple of years ago, and it's multi. It has multiple information on it. Across the left-hand side, that's sales in billions. And you can see that the year 2021, we sold $4.82 billion in sales volume. So if you added up all the homes sold in our market in 2021, that number would have equaled 4.82 billion into the economy, and we had 17,473 sales in that year. And so that's what the red line is that's the number of sales, and the column chart here is the actual volume. And what's kind of interesting here is you look at 2023, we did $4.1 billion in 2023, which is the same number we did in 2020, just when COVID, the first full year of COVID. But what's kind of interesting is with the rise in home values, we sold fewer homes, only 13,069 as of December 31st versus almost 16,700 in 2020 to attain that same 4.1 billion. So that means that home prices hadn't really jumped that much yet in 2020. We saw that really happen the last couple of years here. So we actually maintained a higher volume, at least sales volume number, with fewer sales this year. And this just only goes back to 2018, but if you look, I do have this stat going all the way back to 2009, and it's kind of an interesting graphic to look at. Again, there's our sales all the way up to 2019, just before COVID hit, and then COVID-induced sales for the last 3 years probably is where this hit, and we are kind of in recovery mode, which we'll talk about that here in a second when we get into the cycle of the real estate market. But this is a cool graphic as well. As far as, again, like I said, as of December 31st, our closed sales were just over 13,000 this year. We were at 15,490 last year. If you go back and look at previous years, you might notice that some of these numbers have changed, and that's because I do go back in and I update the actual closed sales that have come in after the December 31st date, just so I have consistent numbers with other reports. So, for example, in 2029, I think I reported we were around 17,100 sales, just breaking that 17,000 sales. And then by the time the sales came in within the next 30 to 60 days after the end of December in 2021, so 2022, we actually brought in another 200 or 300 sales there, which brought us up to that 17, almost 17.5 number there. But anyway, that's where we are as of this year. It's in a different color, and that'll go to dark red next year with the actual closed sales. So this number is right now sitting closer to about 13,300, I think is where I saw it this past week. So that came in after the end of the year. Again, just kind of looking at this same thing in a little bit closer format. This is really the COVID years, and I apologize to those of you that this drives you nuts. In 2024, I've made it my mission to make sure that any graphic that has dates on it goes from oldest on the left to newest on the right and follows that path. And I've done that pretty well, but I know that I've not been able to keep that consistent. And sometimes the report just doesn't allow, the way Excel works, it just doesn't allow me to do that. I'll try to make note of those when that does happen, but I apologize if that drives you nuts. And I can understand why, because you get used to looking at the graphics on the right for the most newest, and that's kind of the path I'll be working on this year. So how these homes broke down, again, we saw kind of a graphic showing the 80% was single family, or I'm sorry, existing homes, and 20% new construction. Well, that's kind of, what this graphic here shows. If you take this little orange and the blue, that's that 80% number of homes sold in 2023, and this makes up the remaining 20%, so 80-20 there. And that's pretty consistent, as you can see, across the last several years. In fact, our new condo townhomes inventory levels really were fairly close, not as many in 2019, but they've kind of maintained kind of a similar number. We were down a little bit in new construction single family homes this year. As you can see, it's not quite as large of a piece of that bar chart as that column chart is previous years there. So again, we'll kind of watch that as this year comes along here. Breaking that same data down, here's a column showing you the existing homes and next to the new homes broken down by month. And you can see that, basically as we move into the summer months, from early spring and into the early summer months, we tend to see the new construction sales pick up, because that's kind of where a lot of the sales are made in the February, March, and April period, and then they close later on in the year here. So that's why we have a few more. 312, I think, was our largest closing month for the month of June, which probably meant that those homes were probably sold somewhere around that January, early February, March. Well, it wouldn't be March probably, unless they were already under construction. But just another way to look at the data. Again, this is one of the graphics that's in the the report. In fact, I'm going to stop here for just a second and remind you where you can go to get these graphics and all the graphics for the show. And in fact, be sure to recommend that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. This QR code over here off to the right, while we're on pause, if you want to pause your video and go grab your camera, this will take you to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. You'll get the graphics and the videos each week as they first come out. Also, it helps me to bring more viewers to this information each week, and I just appreciate those of you who subscribe. The Simply Des Moines Market Values, the DesMoinesMarketValues.com website has been updated this year. You'll notice it's got a cleaner look. The top of the homepage when you come in will look like this, and the homepage will have the theme from the most recent weekly show graphic. And then down here across the bottom, you have links directly to either watch the latest video. You can click on that and go right to the latest video of the week, as well as all previous videos. I've got them back, going all the way back to 2021 on here. And all the show graphics are available. We'll have a little bit more of a kind of a show of that as well. And then if you want to come back and just watch this annual State of the Market show, I have its own special page just for that. It'll be available in the show graphics as well as for the graphics as well as in the latest video. But if you want to just jump right to the State of the Market, you can go over here to do that. And by the time you see this video, that link will be updated as well. So, and again, it'll be chopped into little jump in points there. So let's talk a minute about the real estate cycle, or the cycle of real estate. We've talked about this in the past, and you understand that real estate is a cyclical event. It goes through a period of expansion, peak, slowdown, and recovery, and goes up and down, up and down. It rarely goes as evenly as I'm showing you on this graphic, but this just kind of gives you the idea of the peaks and the valleys. And a typical cycle of real estate is about 10 years, okay? That's a typical period. It says right down here 10 to 15 years, but its typical one is about 10 years. Well, what happens during this real estate cycle is during that period of expansion, we typically see inventory levels rise and buyer demand rises. We also see home prices begin to rise as that all happens, as buyers are buying up homes, then obviously days on market uh, really drops off and homes are selling very quickly. Once we hit the peak, which we'll talk about here in a second, we've hit that I think in 2023. We start to see inventory level off a little bit, buyer demand maybe at the highest at that point, just before the slowdown, and home prices are probably at the maximum that they're going to be at that point. And our time on market is also very, very fast. We get into the slowdown period, and that's kind of exactly where we are right now. In fact, let me just highlight that. We are starting to see inventory do a little bit of a decrease as we start the year off, and that's kind of typical. I can't tell you that that's going to be consistent throughout the year. I'm hoping that inventory starts to rise. I think a lot of that's going to be as a result of mortgage interest rates as we move forward. But the one advantage to this, and this is why I've kind of got opportunities there in the middle. I always say there's opportunities in every single one of these markets. The last market cycle is recover. That's where we've hit the bottom of the slowest period of time, and buyer demand is at lowest, and home prices are most affordable. But we're not there right now. We're still right now in this slowdown period. And the advantage and the opportunity out there for a home buyer and even a home owner who's considering putting their home on the market is homes are on the market a little bit longer right now, and you have the opportunity to really shop and think about your purchase, which is really wonderful. There may be fewer inventory to choose from, but you don't have to feel like you have to find and buy the very first house you see for fear that it's going to go out from under you. And as you'll see in a little bit, we talk about home sales falling apart, or our infamous bomb, our back on the market stat. Our average this last year was around 24%. So one out of every 5 homes or 4 homes, was falling apart at some point there. So that's kind of a opportunity for a home buyer to maybe jump back in and find one of those houses there. So let's see what this kind of looks like in the current cycle. So off to the left there, this is what what we would consider a typical cycle. In fact, this was the cycle from 2000 to 2010. We had the expansion in 2006. We kind of hit our peak. 2008, we dropped a couple, for 2 years, we dropped down into the slowdown, and then it was a 4 year period before we actually hit the recovery period. And, we really probably didn't feel that too much as we were doing that business in that period of time. It was just kind of normal business. But then as of 2010, we started this expansion. That was after the 2008 mortgage meltdown, as you remember. That was kind of right in the middle of our slowdown. And so 2015, we hit the expansion. We were all right on track in 2019 to hit our real estate peak year. So the cycle was going to peak. And there were all kinds of signs that we were going to kind of hit that peak and begin the slowdown period in 2020. And then, of course, we all know what happened there. We hit uh, COVID hit, and that's when everything kind of jumped back up again, and we actually skipped the slowdown, the recovery, and went right back into expansion mode. And that's where we've been. Where have we been up until what I feel like this last year? 2023, in my book, is the peak year, and we are now entering 2024 in the slowdown mode. So again, there's opportunities in every single market. I do not expect this at all for this to see this downward turn go anywhere down. Take as near as long to come down to the bottom. In fact, it's probably going to pick right back up sometime in late 24, maybe early 2025, and we'll be back in an expansion mode, I believe, in maybe late 2025, early 2026. So I think we're just going to see an abbreviated, recovery period and then bounce right back. I think that's kind of the plan that I can kind of see here as happening here. So. All right. Well, with that, this is the caveat. It all depends on what happens with the rise and fall of the mortgage interest rates. And boy, did we see that this year. So this is one of my favorite graphics here. This shows you the weekly mortgage interest rates from Freddie Mac going back from 1971 to present day. And if you ever talk to an old time realtor or somebody who's been in the business in the early 80s, that all they will tell you is, oh my God, you should have been selling real estate when it was 18%. The mortgage rates were 18%. It was hard to finance, and we sold a lot of stuff on contract, and whatever. The market was totally different back then. What I've done with this graphic, and I always explain this, is I've got this chunked off in decades. So it started in 1971. So I went from 71 to 80. So I only had 9 years there. But the median interest rate for that decade was 8.9%. You get into the 80s, and even though we had 18% mortgage interest rates, it actually, the median rate was about 12.8%, which is still a pretty high rate, obviously, compared to what we're used to. 1990s, when I got into business in 1990, the median rate was 7.8%, and we really never saw a lot of fluctuation. Yeah, it was kind of doing a downward turn here, but it was moving along so slow that you could really never feel the mortgage rates, and it really wasn't a driving factor to the business in that decade. Same thing goes for the 2000s. It was really a period where we started to see the rates really kind of start to come down, but it wasn't until the 2010s when we started to see the median rate drop to 4%. And what median means is that half of the interest rates for that time period were above 4.03%, and the other half were below that 4.03%. And that's important to know when you look at so far what's happened in the last from 2020 to 23. Even though we've had high mortgage interest rates above 6% for a longer period of time than what we would really like to have, the median rate is still 3.56%. Now, obviously, if you bought a home or were in the market in the last 3 or 4 years, you still believe in your mind says, hey, rates are they got to be around that 3 to 4%, or I'm not getting a good deal. Well, frankly, 5 and 6% is not a bad rate. It's just bad compared to what we're used to. And our high point here we hit was almost 8%. We'll see that here in a second. But on December 28th, which is the last day that the Fed or the Freddie Mac reported the average mortgage interest rate across the nation, it was at 6.61%. And that's that little tip right here where the rate was really high, and then it really kind of fell down here. So let's kind of take a peek at what's happened in mortgage rates since 2009 from an economic standpoint. So from 2009 to 2013, in 2013, the Federal Reserve announced it would no longer be buying as many bonds because the bonds the Fed buying bonds was one way that they helped bring the recovery out from the mortgage meltdown. They were buying lots of bonds, and the Fed announced it was no longer going to be buying bonds. And you can see immediately what happened after that. This purple line is the mortgage rates, the national average mortgage rate. It jumped in 2013 from, let's see if we go across here, from around that 3% up to almost 4%. So it took almost a 1% jump there. The green line across here, the green bar in the back, this is the number of homes for sale. And that's just to give you a background of how it affected inventory. The next economic event that happened was back in late 2016, and that's was President Trump had just taken office, and there was an anticipation of rising inflation after Trump's administration was taking office. And lo and behold, it didn't necessarily happen. And you can see that the mortgage rates did not jump. In fact, they started coming back down, at least for a little bit. They did come back up in 2019, at which point there was another economic event. That's when Trump's trade war came in and started to lower mortgage interest rates. He was going, trade war with other countries and causing, a little bit of concern with mortgage interest rates. It was considered a bullish thing, and you can see from that point forward, we saw mortgage interest rates really from 2019 and then into the COVID years really start to drop. In fact, there's that marker there showing when COVID-19 hit and where we really were on a downward trajectory. A lot of home buyers said, I'm not going to buy a house until mortgage interest rates hit the bottom. And I know they're going to keep going down. Well, they were probably right at some point, but you can see there in 2021, they kind of, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that, started to go back up again. And it wasn't until the Federal Reserve started to make Federal Reserve rate rises that the mortgage interest rates really started to rise. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at this. This is from January 2022, and you can see that from prior to that, the Fed had not done much with mortgage interest rates. In fact, the Federal Reserve rate was right at that 0% at one point there. So they started raising the Federal Reserve in 0.25% increments at first, and then they went up in 0.5% increments through 2022, rising at a fairly fast clip almost every time the Fed was meeting. You can see that the Federal Reserve rate was going up either 0.25% to 0.5%. And the last time that the Fed did anything regarding the Federal Reserve rate was in late July of last year, where they raised it to 5.5%. And that's kind of where it's sat since then. And as you can kind of see, finally, the economy has cooled down, and we've started to see the mortgage interest rates kind of fall off just a little bit here. So the comparing December 28th of 2023, we're at 6.61%. If you compare that to just a year prior, we're at 6.42. But boy, look what happened in between there. So all that means is that there was some volatility in the mortgage industry, and home buyers and their affordability, the feeling of affordability. What this graphic shows you is the mortgage interest rates compared to 2022, and we were at no point in 2023 did we ever go underneath the previous year's mortgage rates. Got to take a quick drink here. And we ended the year, just like I said before, there's that 6.61 versus 6.42. But boy, there was a lot going on between there. So what does that mean here for affordability? Well, we started out the year in 2023, our lowest month, or our lowest week was, I think, about week 5 or 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Week 5 at 6.09%, and the highest was just before November at 7.8%. And if we flip-flop this chart here and we go into the next graphic, you can see that the purchase power, as interest rates go up, the ability for a home buyer to spend that same $1,200, in this example, a $1,200 monthly principal and interest payment of a 30-year fixed rate, you can see that when interest rates were at their lowest, that $1,200 mortgage payment, principal and interest only, would fund a $198,000 mortgage versus $166,000 at the the highest point of the mortgage rates there. So that's a $30,000 swing from the first part of the year to the last part. If you were a home buyer kind of sitting on the fence waiting for rates to come down, you probably missed your chance earlier in the year, and that's always a lesson is, buy a house when you're ready to buy a house, and you can always refinance. But you if you had waited this year, you can see that you were waiting pretty much the entire year. Now, as this went up, that's also, let me just go back on a slide. This is when the rates started to come back down. So when these came down, that's when mortgage rates really started to affect the viability here. So again, now at the end of the year, the purchase power was at 187.7, so almost back up to 190, like we saw, 198, not close to 198, but 190. So mortgage interest rates this year, I'm a little concerned. I think that they're probably going to come down a little bit, but not as much as maybe we think. In fact, I don't think the volatility is actually over either. I think we're going to see some more volatility. Let's look a little bit about the for sale analysis. And I just, for kicks, I kept that mortgage rate purple line here on this particular graphic just to illustrate one point. And that is, and I've talked about this in the past, as mortgage interest rates rise, it's kind of a natural tendency. It's not a one for one, but what we start to see as mortgage interest rates rise, we start to see home inventory levels rise. And that's a lot of it is because home buyers are sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen, and if rates are going up, they're not buying as many homes or buying them as fast, and then the inventory has the chance to build. And this is where we were able to get over 32, maybe 3,300 homes at the height of our inventory level this year. And then as interest rates came down near the last 7 or 8 weeks, you can see that also came down was the homes for sale inventory. So that put us below the 3,000 level, and we've been below 3,000 to date. So we've got some ways to go if we're going to get close to 4,000. I'm not sure we're going to get there or not, but I think we'll get somewhere in that mid to upper 3,000 numbers here. This graphic just simply shows you the interest or the number of homes for sale on a long-term basis, again from 2009. I like to show this because you talk to realtors that have only been in the business the last 2 or 3 years, and they go, "God, it should be nice to have 4,000 listings or 3,500 listings." And I say, "Well, you know what? Back in the 2009, 2010, we had almost 6,000 homes on the market." And they're like, "Oh, you're full of baloney." It's no, this is the number of homes you can see. At one point, we had, almost 6,000 homes those early 2 years in this graphic, and we've just kind of come down in the last several years. Um, but when you compare it to the COVID years, where we really had virtually no inventory, under 2,000 homes on the market at the bulk of 2021 and at least the first quarter of 2022, it's kind of a number there that's kind of hard to swallow if if you haven't seen this graphic here. So this graphic again shows you again the number of homes for sale on a weekly basis. And I just overlaid 2022 home inventory levels in 2021, just to give you an idea of, are we ahead or behind last year? And when I say we're ahead, that's probably not we have more homes on the market, but fewer buyers buying homes. So again, this is kind of uh, the good side and the bad side of this particular graphic. It's always nice to have more inventory, but that also means that if homeowners aren't there buying at the same pace, then um, that means we're just building inventory here. We can look at this same data on a weekly basis as far as the number of homes added per week. So if we go back real quick, you can see this is showing you the actual number of homes in a snapshot of time, whereas this graphic shows you how many homes were added to the market in a given week. So the first week of 2023, we brought almost 190 homes into the marketplace. And the highest week here was week 20, or week 21, where we brought in, during the period of 1 week, we brought in about 325 homes on the market, and pretty close to that for the bulk of that summer period there. Sometimes we'll see a drop like this, and this is probably Thanksgiving, and then that would have been Christmas, New Year's as well. So we are affected by seasonality as well in that. I don't bring this graphic out very often. This is the minimum, maximum, average inventory levels going back to 2009. And if you follow the stock market, this is going to kind of look like a stock market ticker, a high, low, and average graphic here. And that's kind of what this is Again, there's our high inventory levels in 2010, where we almost hit 6,000, and we were on average around 55, almost 5,600 homes on the market, where once we get into 2022 and 2021, you can see we were at 1,630 in 2020. It was our low point, and on average, we only had about 20, almost 2,300 on an average basis throughout that year. So it's good to see the trending moving upward, and I think we'll continue to see that this year. But again, will we hit that 4,000? That's going to be quite a push. I think it's going to take a little more time for the market to accept that. So that was active inventory. Let's look at pending sale analysis. Same kind of graphic here going back to 2009, and you can see this is a little more spiked. And this is very typical where we see that first 3 or 4 months of the year, that first quarter to third of the year is where the bulk of our sales come on, and then it takes the number of homes waiting to close is the peak right over here at the 2021 is the year where we had almost 4,600 homes, a little over 4,600 homes waiting to close at one time. And this is where we were also in the midst of COVID restrictions. So I remember many times mortgage lenders were doing closings out in the parking lot, and they were using a lot of additional uh, help at the closing escrow companies, and it was things were taking longer to close because there was just a shortage of appraisers and help. So this all kind of ballooned together, and you can see that we really had a record-breaking year. Will we ever see 4,600 homes in the closing state again? It's going to be a long time before we see that, because you can see that the most we had last year at the highest point was just under about 2,800, I think, in the closing period there. So again, this is a pretty typical trajectory. It goes up in the first 2 or 3 months and then takes the rest of the year before stuff kind of comes out there. The inverted market watch. We really didn't talk about it much this year, except for this little period in 2023 where we had more homes in the sale pending bucket than we had homes for sale, and that's the definition that I've dubbed the inverted market watch. So when we have yellow showing, that means that there are more homes waiting to close than we have on the market, and we pretty much were in that inverted market going all the way from or May 27th of 2020 to August 12th of 2022. And once we got our head above water, it kind of felt good because there was more inventory, and the market slowed down a little bit. We were able to bring buyers out without having to make an offer instantaneously. A little fear of that happened middle of last year, around April to May, or late April to early June there, June 1st. But it didn't last long, and we've come completely back out of that. I don't believe we should expect to see an inverted market in 2024, but it's hard to say. And if we do, it'll just be a very, very short period of time there. So the yellow columns here, this is the weekly count, total count of homes in the closing process. So they're sell pending, they're waiting to close. And if you go straight up here, that's that 4,600 high in that 2021 period. And you can see we're well below that in 2023, 2 years later. And actually, we're behind, except for the last month of 2023, we were behind every single week until the end of this year, when we had a little bit of a surge. And a lot of that was due to the mortgage interest rates dropping fairly quick. So we kind of recovered there a little bit, but that's the number of homes that are currently in sale pending. Another way to look at this, again, remember, this graphic shows you the numbers that are just actually setting in sale pending status. For example, this week 24 might have sales that occurred all the way back in the first week. Maybe it's new construction, could have even happened prior to 2023, but they're just sitting there waiting to either be built or waiting for something to happen so that it could close. So to look at it in a little bit different perspective, these are the number of homes that actually had offers accepted on them on a rolling 30-day period. So if we go all the way back over here to week one, if you go back for the month of December to the first month to the first week of January, first week of December to the first week of January, this tells you that we had about 600 and some homes actually go under contract on a rolling average in that period of time. And that just gives us a little more stability in seeing kind of what's happening in the marketplace. And it also kind of shows you that instead of being spiked here and there, it's a little easier to kind of evaluate. And we're behind the majority of the year, but we did cross over again, like I said, at the end of the year here, we crossed over pretty strongly in the 30-day rolling average there. So this would be really these last 4 weeks on average is what makes up this column, and then we do the same thing the following week. So I know that can be confusing, but at least it's a good analysis for a rolling average. Home pricing analysis. So that so far was inventory levels, either pending or sold. Now let's talk a little bit about pricing. This is a quarterly report that shows you the median list price at the end of the quarter. This is actually all homes. This is the end of Q. Let's see. By quarter, it shows you the pink on the right hand side here is quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4 for 2023. And the median list price, we were consistently at or above $350,000 in the month or the year of 2023. And 2022, we really peaked in the first quarter, and the prices actually came down on the list pricing throughout the year. They kind of came down a little bit, but we never did get below that $350,000 price point. And you can see how that compares to previous quarters going back to 2017. So we have seen that rise in list prices. How this really is reflected when you're looking at that pending price, which is the small dotted line. This is the price at the sale pending point. Doesn't mean that's what it's sold for. That just means the price of homes at the time that the homes went under contract each quarter. And then the larger dashed line here is the median sale price. And you can see that the median sale price has been a little bit lower. Just because it's listed higher doesn't mean that's what they're selling at. So we've seen the median list price, or I'm sorry, the median sale price, which is this dark dash here, come down around that 274,000. I think I actually have the graphic here. We'll see that in a second here. So at the end of the fourth quarter, just looking at the end of the fourth quarter, again, this is another way to look at this. And all these graphics for the first 3 quarters are all at DesMoinesMarketValues.com. Again, we'll show you where to get that here before the show's over. But this kind of shows you just a quarter over quarter view of median list price at the end of the fourth quarter. And we've seen that growth really since 2019, where we've seen an increase moving forward. But if you look at the median sale price, every single year since 2017, we've seen an increase, 189.9 to 195 to 218 to 230 and so forth, up to that $277,900. That's the fourth quarter median sale price number there. So we've seen nothing but straight increases in pricing, even with COVID on there. You can see that's kind of where the jump has happened, but we were on track to do that anyway. Would they have been that high? Probably not. So this is kind of an interesting graphic. This talks a little bit about percentage of list price to sale price when a home has been listed and if there has or has not been a price reduction. So let me explain this. This is quarter one. We're going to look through all 4 quarters. Quarter one on this, and it's broken down as well by price points. So the entry-level market, $0 to $300,000 price point, 3 to 6, 600 and above, and then over here to the right, this is all prices. And again, this is as of the end of first quarter, so you just kind of get an idea of the trend here. And what this means is if a home is on the market and it gets an offer and it goes under contract and it ultimately sells, so these are closed sales. If the price has been reduced from the original list price, that means that from that original list price, that the homeowner is effectively seeing a discount of a little over 10% in that under $300,000 price point. In other words, they brought the price down, and then maybe there was negotiation that brought that sale price down from their original list price of whatever it was down almost 11% there. For the homes that had no price reductions, in other words, they were priced properly, and this is very powerful information. If the home was priced properly from original list price to sale price, you can see that without a price reduction, there's very little negotiation needed in the home pricing. And not only is there a very low percentage difference from the original list price, But also here, look at the number of days on market. It took almost on average 71 days on market for the under $300,000 price point, compared to 18 days on market for the home that was priced correctly. Now, remember, we came off of a market here recently that was 2 and 3 days on market on average, but this is what 2023 looked like. So all the way over here to the right, and this is what we'll focus on the rest of these quarters here, is all price points, 98.3, so 6.7%, no, 6, 2 point, no, 1.7%. I can do math in my head, but it takes me a minute. 1.7% off of list price for homes that are priced correctly, and 10.1% off of list price for homes that were that had price reduction. So a pretty healthy drop there. So the lesson here is price the home right, and you'll sell the home much faster, and there will not be as large of a negotiation involved. So quarter two, 99%. Again, this is the peak of the spring market, so it's almost full price there. Uh, Quarter three, still very, very strong, 99.7, down almost 10%. And then quarter four, 98.5% versus 90.4% for homes on the market. Again, these graphics are really, really good to go back and look over in detail. They're all at DesMoinesMarketValues.com. Just to give you an idea here, another way to kind of look at um, list price to sale price based on days on market. The homes that were only on the market 0 to 14 days, which would be the ones that are likely priced right, they were selling overall. Existing homes were selling at right at a 99% list price, so only taking a 1% discount. Homes, that's called market value. We get into needing to make some either negotiations, or maybe there's a small price reduction involved, 15 to 90 days. So this is taking into account the number of days on market. 6.5%. The danger zone, that 90 to 180 days, it's the period where, well, frankly, homeowners feel like it's been on the market forever at 15 to 90, but 90 to 180 days, there's panic. There's like, what's going on? Why isn't my home selling? And they ultimately sell around that 90%. And same thing with the above 180 days. So it's just kind of just an anomaly here. I think that we see this is actually selling just a little bit higher, but than the 91 to 180 days there. But in the grand scheme of things, it just takes much, much longer for homes to sell. And, that's price them right, folks. That's the idea here. So I won't spend the time on this, but this is, again, just the same graphics we saw before for the condo townhomes. This is the Q4. You'll see 1, 2, and 3 as well in the show graphics. And again, here's that same graphic here, days on market, 0 to 14, getting almost 98.5% of homes of price when they're sold in that first 14 days. Looking a little bit around the metro here, now we're going to talk a little bit about metro numbers here, and this graphic is going to show you the metropolitan areas around Des Moines, including Des Moines. Des Moines is divided into northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, Des Moines West, Des Moines East, and downtown. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 different areas of the city of Des Moines, and then we have the suburbs out here. So Johnston came in at the Metro's average sale price at the highest at $523,782 is the average sale price in the community of Johnston, compared all the way down to Des Moines East, which is 147,671. This is probably one of the oldest portions of the city, also the smallest footprint of homes, fewer homes on the market in that particular category, and then you can just see that everything in between. Johnston, Cumming, Clive, Polk City, Ankeny is one we kind of see a lot. Ankeny and Waukee are 2 communities that are pretty usually right up there, but Johnston right now is pretty high. They're at that 523,782. Looking at the existing, now this is just existing homes, not new construction, by the way, because it's just easier to really look at that, because if you throw new construction in, you really kind of skew those numbers a little bit. New construction or existing condominium townhomes, Des Moines Southwest side here, my part of town here, the average sale price in Des Moines Southwest was $296,900. We've got some new construction going on off of Park Avenue and a little bit over off of Bell Avenue as well, which is probably going to help to drive those numbers up this past year. So all the way down to Windsor Heights, which is not known for condominium townhomes. They do have a couple of complexes, and you can see that those are pretty much lower entry level priced over there in Windsor Heights. Not very many over there. So this is again a graphic that you'll want to go to Des Moines market values and download those. Whoops. Um, I just noticed I was using the pointer on the wrong screen, so hopefully you were following along there. Uh, the Metro list price to sale price, again, kind of the same exercise we did before. Where are the homes having the most negotiations off of list price? We see downtown. This is most likely an outlier or an anomaly because there's not as many homes sold over in the actual, what we call the downtown, which is Sherman Hills area. 7.9% is the average discount off of list price in that area. For the most part, it's around that 2.8 to between 2.5% to 3% is kind of the average in the metro, with the exception of Carlisle. Carlisle's been holding on right there. They were just less than 0.5%. So the good number in this particular graphic is over here to the right. I probably should have flip-flopped that and had this go in the reverse order. In fact, I think I did try to do that and it just wouldn't do it. Same thing here goes for condominium townhomes. There is no data in Cumming because there are no condo townhomes in the city of Cumming that were at least listed. I don't think there are, even if there were listed, I don't think there are any. And there were no existing condo townhome sales in Bondurant, which I felt was really wrong. But I went back and did the search, and a couple of times this is existing condominium townhomes, and couldn't find any data. And I still don't think that's right, but I just still can't find any sales. So if you find some sales, let me know and I'll update this graphic here. But Des Moines Northwest is the area where the most discounted condominium townhomes held were found there. All right, I want to caution you. This is very important that we're going to talk about appreciation of values in our marketplace. And I do not want you to go back and say you saw this number on Simply Des Moines website that said that home values were up by X%. Therefore, that's what I'm going to price every house I go out and look at based on what they sold from last year to this year, a couple of years back. I'm going to add that percentage. You can't do that. That is not the way this works. Let's go right ahead and kind of jump in here. Yeah, there we go. I'll make sure I didn't skip one here. This is single family, and I only analyzed the Des Moines Metro. So single family, which is your existing homes. So no condo townhomes, no new construction, all styles of homes. So ranches, 2 stories, everything. What this shows you, this is the appreciation of value, whether the home appreciated by value back in 2007 by 1.4%, in 2008 values went down to 1.3, in 2009 5.7. What happened here was probably the mortgage meltdown was in effect there, the mortgage crisis that we had. We started to see appreciation of values over time. We were going on at a pretty steady clip here across 2015 through 2020, around that 5 to maybe 7% overall. Again, don't use that number as the benchmark. This is just simply what it was for that year overall. It doesn't mean that every single house went up 7%. Just this is overall what happened. You need to do your analysis on a very, very localized level. 2021, we did see across the metro this spike. And this is kind of where the assessors pulled numbers from. If you remember, our assessed values have gone up this last year. Our assessed values, this is kind of the numbers they were looking at these 2 years. Will they ever come back down at the assessed value? Probably not, because once they get their numbers in there. But this is the number for this year, overall average. Overall, 4.2% is what I saw. This does not mean that every house you see that sold this year went up 4.2% over last year. Got it? I don't want to be called to the carpet by somebody who says, this 4.2. The average sale price in 2023 over this past year was $310,420. So, all right. How does this look? Condominium townhomes, 7.7. So we actually had a little bit of a rise. If you look back at previous years, you go, but Les, you said last year these numbers were a little different. Well, that's probably true, because if you remember, I'm taking a lot of these stats as of December 31st. And when I take them at the very end of the year, there's that period of time when sales actually, what I call cure. We get more sales in after the end of the year. And I try to pull a lot of these numbers um, at the end of the year, but and try to get into the early part of the next year. But sometimes, sales just come in afterwards. So therefore, I do go back and make that adjustment. So, all right, that's enough. I'm not going to talk anymore about appreciation of values. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think, already. Let's talk a little bit about AVMs, automated valuation model. This is an off-market evaluation. So the others were homes that were on the market. This is the old tried and true Des Moines two-story that I've used for several years, 1,850 square feet, two-story. And I've analyzed this prior to 2016, but at least we're going to go back and look at 2016 to date. You can see that if COVID hadn't hit, we were probably on track here uh, to be not too far off. With COVID coming in, the AVM valuation actually rose a little bit. It was affected a little bit by the home shortages and things. And what you can see is that this particular graphic shows you that the trend line is not too terribly far off, whether we had COVID or not. So that's, if you've not sold your house and you're wondering if your home value has gone up or gone down, this is what it kind of looks like there. So we'll kind of get a little bit deeper here just in a second and show you here the actual pricing back in 2021. This AVM, which is a culmination of Zillow, Realtor.com, uh, uh, and a couple of other estimates, plus a market CMA is what I did, was to kind of come up with this valuation here. CoreLogic is another one. Uh, you can see that in 2023, we kind of spiked out in the middle of the year, which is fairly typical. You kind of see that spike as values go up in the middle of the year. If I were to put a house on the market that met this particular criteria, that the home values would probably go up, and then at the end of the year, it kind of goes back down. So that's kind of showing you what that looked like there. If you put this year over year, the red column chart now is what 2023 looked like every single week. This was the analysis on a weekly basis. The year low early on was week 5, when the home value was at its lowest at 307, year high 327, and it ended the year actually not 317 for 141. That was prior. That was week 48, but it wasn't too far underneath that. About 315 or so, 316 is kind of where it ended up the year. All right. Some market activity details. This is where we kind of talk a little bit about the little different categories. Price increases were pretty much non-existent in 2023. And we kind of expect that same trend to occur in 2024. You can see that the only one time did we have a week where we had over 100 price increases during the week. The bulk of the time we were down around that 20 to 25 or even less. Price reductions, on the other hand, were on the rise. We saw price reductions come to a rise as we move toward the end of the year. And you can see at week 43, we had over 400 homes actually went under price reductions here. Fewer near the very, very end of the year. Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's are those 3 anomaly weeks there. That's probably Easter right there. As far as weekly listings canceled, these are homes that just said, hey, you know what, take the home off the market. I'm done trying. Average there probably around 25, 27 on average every week that's comes off the market. Weekly listings expired. These are the ones that end their listing period and most likely are relisted at some point, but you can see that's a little bit higher. And then are back on the market here. This is the one that we kind of keep a closer eye on as far as, how many homes come off the market that had offers accepted. 24% was the average. So 1 out of every 4 homes for the last year pretty much tried, either came on the market or fell apart, either from a home inspection or appraisal issues. Something happened so that the homes came back on the market there. So hopefully we'll stay below that 24% this year. When's the best time to buy a home if you're a home buyer? At least when was it in 2023? You can see that this minus 6.3% is the average negotiated buyer discount. So this was the highest amount discounted or negotiated off in 2023 was January, where they were selling at under a little over 6% off of the list price. The spring market and the early summer markets, you can see that the home sellers were holding closer to the list pricing, and probably homes were selling much faster. And then it comes back down to that bell curve, that reverse bell curve back here in December at 5.1. So if you're thinking about buying, February might be your best chance now to get that lowest price before we get to the end of the year. You can see that was the second lowest, highest negotiated off list price of the year in 2023 at 5.3%. So existing condos, same kind of categories there. Again, January and February are the two leaders there. New homes, yeah, I think builders sometimes after the first of the year are a little anxious to get some of the previous year's inventory sold. So we tend to kind of see a little bit of discounts in that month of February. So if you're thinking about new construction, you might be able to get some additional concessions. I don't know that for sure, but I know there's probably some deals out there to be had this year. Be interesting to see if that changes this year. And then the existing or the brand new condominium townhomes. There's not as many of these sold, so this number kind of fluctuates. In fact, you can see in November they're actually we're selling for above list price in November at 1.4%. So with that, okay, well, we've talked here. What's our timing here? We've gone about an hour. Again, you can chunk this out if you want to and view this in little chunks. Let's see what my predictions are for 2024. We're going to use the same questions. For sale inventory, what do I think is going to happen there? Well, I think that our inventory will cross 3,500, but it's going to struggle to hit 4,000 in 2024. And I don't know how long it's going to stay above 3,500. If mortgage interest rates continue to drop, we'll see a large influx of buyers that are going to kind of jump in, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just say that we're going to be between 3,500 and 4,000 homes on the market in 2024. I think that sales activity is going to be largely affected by mortgage interest rates. So if interest rates continue to go down, I think we'll continue to see more sales, and our pending sales should start to rise. However, if interest rates go back up, they will turn everything the opposite direction. We may not see as many pending sales. Closed sales. Last year I predicted, if you recall, I predicted we would be not make as many as last year, but be awful close. We didn't even come close this past year. We came 2,000 sales away. I think we will surpass 2023 unit sales, but I don't think we're going to hit that 2022 again. I think 2024 is going to be a correction year still, and that's going to be our recovery year. Our days on market, homes will sell slower in the earlier and late months of 2024. We will obviously we will see our January, our spring market, our April, May, and June and July business be at probably 7 days or so on the market. So months of inventory. Last year I said under $300,000 price points will dominate the months of inventory category. I think this year it's going to be under $400,000 price points. And the reason for that is going to be answered in this last question down there, which we'll get to in just a second here. Mortgage interest rates, I believe we're probably going to see between 5.5% and 6% early on. But I really don't know what's going to happen. Next year's a presidential election year, and just depending on what's going on with the economy, rates could go up, they could go down, they could stay flat. I just really don't feel like I've got my crystal ball polished enough to be able to tell you what's going to happen after probably about mid-year next year. So I think the opportunity is take advantage of the rates we have today. Get out there and buy something while you can. If rates go down, you can always refinance. If they go up, you can have the confidence and the satisfaction of knowing that you probably got a lower interest rate. So the buyer pool shift, and this answers a couple of earlier questions. I do feel like homeowners are ready to jump into the buying market this year. I thought they were last year, but when interest rates really rose so dramatically and fast, they all just said, nah, we'll sit tight another year. I think that they're just getting that cabin fever. They're ready to buy. So once they go on the market as home sellers, most of them will turn into home buyers as well, and that's going to increase the competition for the first-time home buyer space, as a lot of homeowners that are sitting there wanting to downsize are going to be in competition for the same size homes of the lower price market buyers that are trying to jump into the market. So we may have a little bit of a traffic jam there, and that's just going to fuel days on market to drop faster than we think. And again, that's why I say I think under $400,000 price point is going to be a faster pace this year, because we'll see some of those higher price points that the downsizing home sellers hitting the market. At least that's what I'm feeling. I don't know if I'm hearing it, but I'd like to feel that's happening. So the question is, how can I keep up to date with all these stats and graphics? And again, here's that QR code. While this is out, either go to the show notes and grab it with your phone, or grab it right now, get your phone out and hit that QR code and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All the show graphics are available on this homepage at DesMoinesMarketValues.com. You just hit that link that says "Take me to the downloads." Also, this report, the annual state of the market, is also out here. This is going to be available as soon as I get it uploaded. When you see this on YouTube, this will be already uploaded. The latest video will be at the top over here, so you'll see the state of the market video here, as well as over here to the left. And then the state of the market video will kind of work its way down as the year goes. But if you wanted to come back in 3 months, you can always just hit state of the market, take me to the latest state of the market report, and you'll see that. This is what the graphic will look like this week. This top line will be in red. It'll have a hyperlink for the show that I'm recording right now. I'll put those graphics in right here. And then right below that, and so this is going to continue to build. This will go week through 1 through 52 as we build. But just below that, and especially for the next few weeks, you're going to be able to see all the show graphics from today's show, as well as many, I'd say several hundred graphics that we didn't go into today. As I think I told you, there's over 800 graphics here in all of these links. You click on January active pending, there might be 12 different graphics in that particular link alone. So you're going to spend some time at Des Moines Market Values this next couple of weeks and just explore. Get in there and download what you want, use what you want, share what you want. Just don't change any of the graphics, but please go right ahead and use these in your marketing. If you're a realtor, if you're a consumer and you're watching this, use this to your advantage to kind of educate yourself to the marketplace here. So again, this is what the homepage will look like here shortly. Come back in, as like I always say, get in here and surf the website, all the state of the market, the download, the show graphics, everything is all right there. So, all right, guys, that's it. 1 hour and 7 minutes. I will chunk this down with little drop-in links, so you can jump right in on a specific category and watch just that particular category. Will have those headers on there. And with that, I am ready to kick back, take a couple of drinks, and we'll see you all again next week. Don't hesitate to reach out. StatGuy at DesMoinesMarketValues.com is the email address. Phone number 515-202-8954. I'll do my best to answer you as quickly as I can. And please, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm starting to trip over my tongue. Thanks again for everything. We'll talk to you all again next week, and be safe out there.